definitely seeing the end result of having the band or the artist or whoever it is, if it's a solo artist, when their records finally, you're about halfway there and they're seeing the fruits of all your work and changing things and all the work you went through to make sure that snare drum sounds just right, or you made that lyric change that they're not sure of, and it's finally, it's like, wow, this is something like a record. And that's real the thing that I like, because I'm seeing them that they're happy, and it's like, wow, this sounds better than I ever even thought it was going to. I can't believe it. And that's when it makes you feel good, because you're striving for that, but sometimes you're flying blind. You don't know. It could be like, I do what I think is going to be the best, but it could fail and be terrible. But I think normally it doesn't come out like that. But when you hear from the band or the artist that just like, wow, this is better than I even imagined, that's probably my favorite part of it. And that, and also just within just recording day to day, catching great performances. So yeah, I guess overall that one, I guess there's a lot of things I like. So I guess I might have a hard time deciding my favorite, because also capturing good performances and with somebody and they're singing, or maybe it's a guitar solo or a piano part, and somebody just nails it and you're just like, wow, that was amazing. And you got it on tape, you captured it, or not necessarily tape. That's still what we say. Engineers say we got it on tape, even though it's not. It's on a hard drive half the time. But that part of it is also like that, of capturing a good performance and getting that, and just being with the band or the artist, and that relationship is fun too. You just become friends. You become really close. I mean, you'll sometimes spend a long time with the band, from the time beginning making a record of pre-production to the very end, where you kind of become your family for a while. You'll see them more than your wife or kids. You'll be with the band more than them sometimes, so you end up getting a good relationship usually, and that's cool that it end up being friends for a long time. So I guess there's lots of good parts of it. So I got to work alongside recording a Donny Osmond album. It was way early on when I was starting out, and I thought that was huge. And I also saw that he was just an amazing singer and this amazing guy in the studio. I'm like, okay, no wonder the guy's still around doing stuff, and was a star when he was, like 8 or something, and because he was just gifted. So that was some like early on, and then started being a second engineer, and I got to work with Sheryl Crow for a couple days. I did one song from beginning to end. That was really cool. And I don't know, just there's been a lot of people. Tori Amos, Alanis Morissette, Keen was a band that's happening now. It's been more of a modern band. That's what I always get put on the spot. I should have my list of all the big people I've worked with. Sarah McLachlan, Johnny Lang was, of course, from Minneapolis. Got to work on both of his records. So there's a few. I'm always put on the spot. Look at our website. I have all of them on there. So, but it's hard to remember. Well, for me personally, it's probably if I was just a producer, it would be one thing, but I am involved with a studio also, of keeping a studio going. So probably the main challenge these days is just financially, because there's so many studios that have gone under. The record labels say they're not making any money. Nobody says they're making any money, so they're cutting budgets for everything. So it all trickles down. The bands get less, not as many bands being signed, not as much money to make records. You can buy lots of gear at Guitar Center and make records with gear that you can just go buy, out of magazines, and where back in the older days, the only people that had studio gear was people that had money. The studios had a lot of money, and the labels had money, and you didn't record unless somebody was paying for it, unless you were really on something really not good to record on, some real primitive gear. But back in the old days, you had to be good to record, or you weren't allowed to record because you didn't have the money to record. But nowadays, anybody and their brother can record a record, and so it's made it a little strange. We'll get people that want to record here, and they find out that it's not cheap, it's not free. We have overhead and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear and vintage mics, and we have to pay for that. But I can record with my friend for $10, and there is a place for that, because the bands need to start somewhere and do demos, and so those people do get utilized and should get utilized. But really, to make a real great sounding record, you usually need some skilled people, a skilled engineer, a skilled producer. And it's nice to have nice gear so you don't have to deal with gear issues, so that the band can just record and make their music and not be in somebody's basement and the headphones don't work, or they're hearing a car drive by. It just makes it so they can just focus on making a record. So that's probably the main thing, of just financial, of keeping a studio busy and staying busy in the industry nowadays. Because also, being that there is cheaper gear, and there's lots of schools where people are going for engineering and producing and things, where back in the old days there really weren't any. You just did it because you just wanted to do it so bad, and you figured out how to do it. You knocked on the studio door and said, I'll do whatever I have to do to just hang here. Come back at midnight and you can mop the place and empty the garbage, and that's how you got in the door. And nowadays you can go to school for it, buy your own gear, get a little studio going. But it's made it challenging, because we have more competition in some ways, of everybody's recording at home. But at the same time, we're lucky that we do stay busy, and we do seem like we keep doing well, because in the end, people find out when they record at somebody's home studio, they're like, wow, how come it doesn't sound like that Metallica record that I bought? And it's like, okay, I guess we need to record with some pros and be in a real studio, and that's where people get that realization. And then you work with an engineer that's done hundreds of albums and been doing it for 15 years, instead of somebody that's just been doing it for a year in their basement.